Chosen one, stop what you are doing right now and listen to me very carefully, because what I am about to tell you is not something that most people will ever warn you about. Most people will go into this Friday completely unaware, completely unprepared, and completely vulnerable to the forces that are already moving against them. But not you. You were guided here for a reason. You were meant to hear this, and once you understand what I am going to reveal, you will never look at a Friday the same way again. Let me begin with something that sounds almost too simple to be serious. Friday is not just a day. It is not just the end of the week. It is not just a countdown to the weekend. Friday carries with it an energy, a momentum, a particular kind of spiritual and psychological gravity that makes it unlike any other day in the 7-day cycle. And for those of you who are chosen, for those of you who are on the edge of something great, something transformational, something that the universe has been quietly preparing you for, Friday is the day when everything can either break open beautifully or fall apart catastrophically. There is no middle ground. There rarely is for people like you. Now, before I explain what Friday does to the chosen ones, I need to explain what it means to be chosen in the first place, because there is a massive misconception about this. Most people hear the phrase chosen one, and they think of someone who floats through life untouched, someone who has special powers, someone who is protected by destiny itself. They think being chosen means being safe, but that is exactly backwards. Being chosen means being targeted. Being chosen means that the very forces that oppose growth, oppose awakening, oppose elevation, they know your name, they know your potential, and they have been working against you in ways you cannot fully see, on timelines you do not fully understand, through mechanisms that you have never been taught to recognize. You were not chosen because your path would be easy. You were chosen because you have the capacity to walk a hard path and still arrive at your destination. That capacity is rare, that capacity is precious, and it is also, chosen one, what makes you dangerous to the forces that profit from people staying small, staying asleep, staying stuck. So now let us talk about Friday specifically. Let us talk about why this particular day, this day that people celebrate with the hashtag TGIF, this day that people treat like the finish line, is actually the most dangerous day of the week for someone at your level. The first thing you need to understand is the concept of the threshold moment. In every meaningful journey, there are moments where you are standing right at the edge of breakthrough, not past the edge, not having crossed over, right at the edge. These moments have a particular feeling. They feel like uncertainty. They feel like pressure. They feel like the universe is somehow holding its breath. And what many people do not realize is that threshold moments have their own timing. They do not arrive randomly. They tend to cluster around endings and beginnings. The end of a cycle, the beginning of a new one. Friday, being the final working day of the week for most people, is saturated with this threshold energy. It is a moment of completion and anticipation simultaneously. And for the chosen one, that combination is both powerful and precarious. Here is why. When you are in a threshold moment, your defenses are down, not because you are weak, but because breakthrough energy requires you to be open. Walls keep out the bad, but they also keep out the good. In order to receive what is coming to you, in order to step into what you have been working toward, you have to be somewhat open, somewhat vulnerable, somewhat exposed, and that openness is exactly what others, whether consciously or unconsciously, are attracted to. The people who drain you, the situations that distract you, the old patterns that come back to pull you into familiar but limiting territory, they all show up at threshold moments, because threshold moments are when they have the best chance of stopping you. On Friday, you are carrying the entire weight of the week. You have been giving all week to your work, to your relationships, to your obligations, to your goals. By the time Friday arrives, you are often running on fumes emotionally, even if you feel a kind of relief and excitement about the weekend. That combination, low reserves, high emotion, creates a very specific vulnerability that I need you to hear about clearly. When your reserves are low and your emotional guard is relaxed, you make different decisions than you would on a Monday morning. You say yes to things that do not serve you. You ignore red flags that you would normally catch. You slip back into old behaviors, old conversations, old environments that felt comfortable but were actually holding you back. You might reach out to someone you should have let go of long ago. You might agree to something that future you will regret. You might simply stop, right at the edge of your breakthrough, and take a rest that turns into an indefinite pause. And the universe, chosen one, has a very specific kind of mercy for people like you. It gives you warnings. It sends signals. It puts something in front of you, like this video, like this message, at exactly the right moment. The question is whether you are paying attention. The question is whether you are willing to receive what is being sent. Let me now take you deeper into something that very few people talk about, the spiritual warfare that happens specifically around your moments of elevation. I want to be very careful with this concept because it is easy to misunderstand and equally easy to misuse. I am not talking about literal demons or supernatural enemies in the Hollywood sense of the word. I am talking about something more subtle, more pervasive, and in many ways more dangerous, the human forces, the systemic forces and the psychological forces that collectively resist your rise. Chosen one, every time you have gotten close to a major breakthrough in your life, every time you have been on the verge of finally making the leap, finally breaking through the ceiling that has been above you, what happened? Think about it honestly. Did something show up to distract you? Did someone call in a crisis that made you feel guilty for focusing on yourself? Did some unexpected setback arrive that seemed timed almost perfectly to derail you? Did your own mind suddenly flood with doubt? Doubt so loud, so articulate, so persuasive, that you wondered if you were making the whole thing up. This is not coincidence. This is the pattern, and it intensifies on Fridays. Friday is when the week's momentum either crystallizes into real forward movement or dissolves into what I call comfortable stagnation. Comfortable stagnation is the most dangerous kind because it does not feel like failure. It feels like rest. It feels like balance. It feels like you being kind to yourself after a hard week. And sometimes it is genuinely all of those things, but for the chosen one who is right at the edge, it can also be the thing that breaks the momentum you spent 5 days building. Let me give you a very specific picture of how this plays out. It is Friday afternoon. You have been working all week on something that matters to you. A project, a goal, a relationship with yourself, a new discipline, a new identity you are trying to step into. And then Friday hits. Someone invites you out, or the old version of you sends a message from inside your own head. You deserve a break. You've worked hard. This can wait until Monday. And what happens on Monday? The momentum is different. The energy is different. The window that was open on Friday, that threshold window, has closed. You have to start all over again, building toward the edge. And this time it takes longer, and it feels harder. And somewhere in the back of your mind you start to wonder if maybe you just are not the kind of person who can actually make it happen. That voice, that subtle, seductive, perfectly timed voice, is one of the biggest dangers you face on a Friday. It comes dressed in the language of self-care and reasonableness, and it delivers a conclusion that is neither careful nor reasonable. It is the voice that has been keeping people exactly where they are for years. Chosen one, you have heard that voice before. You will hear it again on Friday. And knowing it is coming is your first line of defense. Now I want to talk about the social dimension of Friday danger, because this is where it gets particularly nuanced and particularly relevant for where you are right now. There is a social ritual around Fridays that is deeply embedded in modern culture. The idea that Friday is for celebration, for release, for letting go. And again, this is not inherently bad. Rest is real, joy is real, community is real. But for someone who is on a transformational path, Friday's social pull can create what I call alignment drift. Alignment drift happens when you gradually move away from who you are becoming and back toward who you used to be. Not because you made a conscious choice, but because you followed the path of least social resistance. You went where the crowd was going. You did what the group was doing. You talked the way the room was talking. And by the end of Friday night, you have drifted further from the version of yourself that you are working so hard to build, and closer to the version that used to feel familiar and now feels like a trap. The chosen one is particularly vulnerable to this because of a very specific internal conflict. You feel the call to rise, but you also feel the pull of belonging, and belonging is one of the most powerful human needs. It is not weakness to feel it, it is not failure to want it, but when belonging to your current circle requires you to not grow, requires you to stay small, requires you to perform a version of yourself that you are in the process of shedding, then Friday becomes the weekly battleground for your identity. And here is the thing that makes this even more complex. The people around you are not your enemies. They are not villains plotting against you. They are simply people who are comfortable where they are. And your growth creates a kind of discomfort for them that they cannot always articulate, but that they are unconsciously motivated to resolve by bringing you back down to where you were. It is not malice, it is human nature, but the result is the same. On Friday, the people closest to you may become the unconscious instruments of your limitation. So what do? Do you isolate yourself? Do you cut everyone off and spend every Friday alone in a cave of productivity? No. That is not the answer. The answer is awareness. The answer is discernment. The answer is walking into Friday with clear eyes and knowing exactly what is at stake. Let me now speak to something even deeper. The energetic and spiritual significance of Friday across traditions and across time. In many ancient traditions, specific days of the week carried specific energies. In Norse tradition, Friday was associated with Frigg or Freya, the goddess of love, beauty, fertility, and also war. There is a profound paradox in that association. The energy of Friday is simultaneously the energy of love and the energy of conflict. This is not accidental. It captures something true about what Friday feels like for someone who is awake. It is beautiful and it is dangerous at the same time. It invites connection and it demands discernment. In Islamic tradition, Friday is considered the holiest day of the week, a day of gathering, of reflection, of communal prayer. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, described Friday as containing a hidden moment, a specific hour during which prayers are especially powerful and answered. This teaching points to something important. Friday contains within it a moment of extraordinary access, a moment when the connection between intention and manifestation is especially strong. The chosen one who knows this and uses this has a tremendous advantage. The chosen one who does not know this and spends that window in distraction has squandered something precious. In Kabbalah, the days of the week are associated with different sevirot, different aspects of divine energy. Friday is associated with Yesod, which represents the foundation, the channel, the place through which higher energies flow into the material world. Yesod is the gateway, and gateways, chosen one, work in both directions. What you open yourself to on Friday can flow into the rest of your week, into the rest of your life. This is why what you choose, what you consume, what you think, what you say, what you do on Friday carries particular weight. It is not just a day, it is a frequency setter for what comes next. Now I want to talk about the specific dangers that manifest in practical, everyday terms, because this message needs to land in the real world, not just in the realm of concept and theory. There are 5 specific Friday dangers that I want you to carry with you as armor. The first danger is the danger of false completion. When Friday arrives, there is a psychological tendency to feel like the week is done, even when it is not. Even when you left something unfinished that was critical, even when you were in the middle of a chain of action that needed to be completed. The sense of Friday closure is powerful enough to trick your mind into declaring victory prematurely. And the chosen one who stops at 90%, who declares the race won with 10% still to run, will find every single time that that 10% was exactly where the breakthrough lived. The miracle was in the final 10% that you gave away to the gravitational pull of Friday's false finish line. The second danger is the danger of lowered standards. Friday has a way of making leniency feel like wisdom. I'll be easier on myself today. I don't need to hold that boundary today. Just this once, it's Friday. And what actually happens is that every just this once on a Friday trains your nervous system to believe that your standards are negotiable. Standards that are negotiable are not standards. They are suggestions, and you cannot build a life of real magnitude on suggestions. The third danger is the danger of toxic nostalgia. Friday evenings in particular have a way of making the past look more appealing than it actually was. You think about the old friends, the old life, the old relationship, the old version of yourself that felt simpler even if it was smaller. And you reach back, you send the message, you make the call, you go back to the place. And when you do, you are not just visiting the past, you are signaling to your subconscious that the future is not worth the discomfort of growth. Toxic nostalgia is one of the enemy's most sophisticated weapons because it weaponizes what was real memories, real connections, real feelings, and uses them to prevent what is real from growing. The fourth danger is the danger of the wrong room. On Friday, people gather, celebrations happen, circles form, and not all of them are moving in the direction that you are moving. There is tremendous pressure to be in the room that is closest, most convenient, most socially comfortable, even when that room is full of people who are not going where you need to go. The wrong room will not feel like the wrong room on a Friday night. It will feel warm, it will feel fun, it will feel like belonging, but you will know, somewhere deeper than your entertainment, that you are spending currency you cannot afford to lose on a deposit that will return nothing. The fifth danger, and perhaps the most insidious, is the danger of spiritual depletion followed by spiritual emergency. Here is what this looks like. You have been running all week. You have been pushing, growing, fighting for your vision. By Friday, you are spiritually depleted. Your inner reserves of faith, of clarity, of conviction are at their lowest point of the week. And in that depleted state, something happens. A rejection, a criticism, a piece of news that challenges your belief in yourself or in what you are building. And because your reserves are low, that thing hits harder than it should. It lands like a verdict instead of like an event. And you make decisions from that wound, decisions that you will have to undo for months or even years afterward. This is the pattern, chosen one. This is the Friday cycle that has been quietly shaping your life and the lives of everyone around you. And now that you see it, now that you can name it, you are no longer subject to it in the same way. Knowledge, applied knowledge, is armor. So let me spend the final part of this message talking about what you do with this awareness. Let me talk about how you walk into Friday not as a target but as a force. Let me talk about how you transform the most dangerous day of your week into the most powerful day of your week. The first shift is what I call the Friday morning anchoring practice. Before the day takes you anywhere, you take the day somewhere. Before the noise begins, you sit in silence, even for 5 minutes, and you connect with the version of you that is becoming. Not the current you, not the past you, but the future you that all of this struggle is in service of. You ask that version of yourself, what do you need from me today? And then you listen, and then you write it down. That anchoring practice sets a frequency for your Friday that makes it much harder for low-frequency events and people and choices to pull you off course. You cannot be easily moved when you know where you are standing. The second shift is what I call the Friday completion ritual. Before Friday ends, before the social gravity takes hold, before the fatigue sets in, you identify the one thing that absolutely must be finished, and you finish it. Not the 20 things on your list, the one that you would be most proud of having done when you look back. The one that represents the most significant continuation of your momentum. Finish that one thing, and your weekend becomes a true rest, not an escape, not a delay, but a genuine restoration before the next push. When you leave something undone on Friday, your mind does not rest on the weekend. It frets, it worries, it circles, but when you complete the critical thing, you give yourself the gift of genuine peace. The third shift is environmental curation. You get to decide, chosen one, what environment you step into on Friday evening. Not completely, life is complex. Obligations are real, but you have more choice than you are currently exercising. Choose an environment that aligns with who you are becoming at least as often as you choose an environment that simply feels familiar. This does not mean every Friday has to be a monastery. It means being intentional. It means knowing before Friday arrives where you are planning to put yourself and why. Intention transforms environment. Walking into a room with awareness is completely different from drifting into a room through habit. The fourth shift is what I call active spiritual protection. Whatever your tradition, whatever your practice, prayer, meditation, visualization, affirmation, physical movement, do it on Friday with extra intention. Do it knowing that Fridays carry particular weight. Do it knowing that what you reinforce on Friday tends to set the tone for what follows. In the Islamic tradition, there are specific supplications for Friday that Muslims are encouraged to recite. In Christian tradition, contemplative Friday practice dates back centuries. Whatever your path, honor it more fully on Fridays. Use the day's sacred energy rather than being used by it. The fifth shift is the chosen one's most powerful act. Choosing witness over reaction. When the Friday dangers show up, and they always will, instead of reacting from depletion, from nostalgia, from fear, from the wound, you pause, you become the witness. You observe what is happening inside you. You name it. This is the feeling of lowered standards. This is the pull of toxic nostalgia. This is the false finish line. When you name something, you stand outside of it. You retain the capacity to choose. And choice, real choice, made from awareness rather than compulsion. That is where your power lives. Chosen one, here is what I need you to hold as you close this out and go back into your life. You were not guided to this message to be frightened. You were guided here to be prepared. The danger is real. The forces that move against the chosen ones, through habits, through social pressure, through internal resistance, through the specific vulnerability of Fridays, are real. But they have never been a match for a chosen one who is awake. They have never been able to stop someone who sees clearly and acts deliberately. Your clarity is your protection. Your awareness is your armor. Your commitment to the life that you are building is your weapon. This Friday, when the false completion whispers, you will know its name. When the lowered standards arrive dressed as self-compassion, you will see through the costume. When the toxic nostalgia sends its invitation, you will know where that path leads. When the wrong room calls your name, you will remember the name of the room you are building toward. And when spiritual depletion makes something land harder than it should, you will pause, you will breathe, you will remember that events are not verdicts, they are events, and you are still the author. The chosen one does not avoid danger. The chosen one walks through danger with eyes open and comes out the other side carrying something that the untested cannot carry. The earned certainty that they are who they said they were. That certainty is worth every Friday, every threshold, every moment of temptation and resistance and painful clarity. You know now. Go forward knowing. And this Friday, this specific Friday that is coming for you, let it be the Friday that changes the trajectory. Let it be the day you chose to stay on the path when everything in your environment was conspiring to pull you off of it. Let it be the Friday that the future version of you looks back at and says, that was the day I decided. That was the day I chose myself, chose my vision, chose the life I came here to live. That was the day I stopped being in danger and started being dangerous. Chosen one, you were never just watching this, you were already in it. Now go be what you came here to be.